Hello and welcome to our battle commentary series, and in this one we are going to talk about how to counter the Hellenic pikemen. Hellenic pikemen are a very popular build, and they are relatively hard to counter. However, if when done right, they and when the battlefield is controlled by your ranged units, you'll see that they are quite easy to take out. Now, the battle that we're going to take a look at is an almost perfect battle for the ranged units because the opponent has a very heavy pikeman build and everything is seen very clearly. And with the flanking, you'll see how effective your ranged units can be, even though they have limited ammo. We're gonna talk about the details during the battle, so let's take a look. Now, as you can see, I got 6 spearmen against the enemy cavalry, and 9 archers, obviously against the enemy backbone, and 4 cavalry. Most importantly, to control the battle, I prefer to use my cavalry to control my enemy's position and to control the battlefield. Now, first, let's take a look at the battle deployment here. I have deployed my units in a straight line, some of them hiding in the forest. I prefer to put my spearmen ahead and my horsemen on my flanks, so that way I can intercept any enemy cavalry. And my archers behind, I pull them up front and to the back when necessary. If your enemy decides to go suicidal and charges directly into your main line, you can just put your spearmen into a defensive formation, activate their special ability, and you'll get a huge advantage. Plus, no sane person would do that. So, as you can see, my opponent has started in a very interesting formation over here. Now let's take a look what happens next. Okay, we're taking a look at the tactical map here. I have moved my spearmen closer to my enemy, and my archers right behind him. And here my opponent makes his first move. He is first putting his archers in a line facing my troops. Now he has made an obvious mistake here by separating his slingers from his main force. This means now they're just now they're open for an attack by the cavalry. Let's take a look what happens next. Also, the strange thing, my opponent didn't put all of his units properly. As you can see, these hoplites here are just standing there for no reason. And also his cavalry is pretty far apart. Now I'm charging towards his ranged units, and as you can see, I have only used cavalry on one of my flank, and I'll still keep these cavalries on defensive, because my opponent still has his cavalries, and if he somehow manages to break my line, that's going to be disastrous. So you only get one chance. When you're using this kind of build, you cannot make any mistakes. I mean, yes, you can sacrifice some of your archers, but if like half of your archers are gone before defeating majority of the enemy, you are in a deep trouble. So this is why you use lots of spearmen and cavalries defensively at the start. Now, as you can see, I've separated my cavalries, and even though I am charging at my enemy, my intention, I assume my opponent is going to pull back his ranged units, and I can irritate him and manipulate his formation just to make him panic. Let's see what happens. As you can see, if I wanted to attack them directly, I could have used both of my noble cavalries, but instead one of them are going for his other flank. Here I activated my charge ability, and as you can see, my enemy's thorax swordsmen are coming to counter, and here is the first collision. However, I kept giving the command to attack, so all the cavalries that were not blocked by my opponent, managed to crash into my opponent's slingers. Now, and my noble cavalries, my noble riders here, are receiving enemy fire, even though it is a pretty high range. That is due to slingers having the highest range in the game. But since they are in a forest, as you can see, forests are effective at hiding, and the trees also serve as a cover. So if you want to cover or just drain your opponent's ammo, you should hide your units in forests. As you can see, my cavalries here are taking out these archers, even though the main force is fighting them here. My other noble riders are responding, and he is bringing out his cavalries against it. My noble rider group has broke out from the main group. Now, as you can see, I've made one more mistake here. I have attacked his hippies, or whatever, lancers, the shock cavalry, instead of his archers here. That way, but this allowed me to stop his shock cavalry, and has created this chaos. Created this chaos just with one unit. Now his units are in complete chaos, and I think my intention was to keep these shock cavalries here, so my other cavalry could attack from this side. Let's see how it goes. Now I'm keeping my other cavalries over here. My opponent is going into a new box, and my noble cavalries are dead. Now, I know that my enemy has pikemen here, but I still am trying to take out his lancers, because I know that he has only 2 ranged units left. Now, there is a very important thing with this build. Your first priority to kill is enemy cavalry. Second priority is the enemy ranged units, because they are the only threats against your main force, which are going to be your ranged units. So this is why after that point your cavalry become useless, because you're not going to engage the enemy with your cavalry after you have taken them out, unless your archers run out of ammo, obviously. But you can use your remaining cavalry to inspire the rest of the troops if something goes badly. But with a decent micro, you should not have that kind of a problem. As you can see, now I'm targeting my enemy's lancers and going for my enemy scorpions. One more thing: when you're fighting against siege units tend to have a very strong fire, very strong arrows, which can pierce through multiple units, but their fire rate is incredibly slow, and they can only fire just a few arrows at a time. This means if you open up your put your units in a very thin line, you will minimize your casualties, and that way you can almost nullify the effect that these siege weapons have. If you put your soldiers together, a catapult can take out like 30, maybe 40 units with one shot. So that is very important when you're fighting against siege units. Now, as you can see, my enemy tried to new box, but he has left an opening. Even though he was holding with his cavalry, my other cavalries managed to push through, and now I'm attacking his scorpions. He had to abandon their scorpions there to save the units, but it fails, and I managed to get them. Now I'm trying to exterminate his cavalries. That's my main point. Now my enemy could have done many things in order to counter this. He could have pulled back his pikemen, which was one of the main mistakes he made. But that would also disrupt his formation. Now, to demonstrate the power of the archers, I have 5 archer units here firing simultaneously at one unit. Let's see what kind of effect it has. Close up. First, we got around 20 casualties. Now, let's see. And now, yeah, around 40. Now we have just doubled our casualty rate. 20. As you can see, my cavalries have just ran away, and as you can see, they have killed each and every single one. Just this guy to tell the tale, I guess. And nope, nope, not today. So my cavalry has engaged his pikemen. At this point, I'm just trying to disrupt his formation using my cavalries and to take out his last slinger unit. I know that these scorpions are now ineffective because they don't have they have left their scorpions back there. Now, here is the important moment. This is the most critical moment in the battle. Eventually, your opponent is going to charge onto you with his infantry. However, you must remember that your ranged units are usually very lightly armored. This means they don't tire easily and can run very fast. As you can see, now I'm opening the ground, and I didn't even have to use my spearmen. However, even though I haven't used my spearmen, doesn't mean that they're gonna be useless throughout the battle. No, these spearmen also have spears to throw when they charge, so I can use them as a little bit of range support. Beside that, when the enemy has only very little units left, in order to preserve ammo, you can directly engage his units and rout them out. Because after all, when your enemy has 15 hoplites, if you charge your 120 night hunters into them, they will probably rout, no matter how strong they are. Here I am attacking my enemy from his flanks. I'm bombarding him from his flanks. My enemy saw that. My opponent saw it. I tried to make a quick in-out with my night hunters. Unfortunately, there is one more problem with the game, and it is especially obvious with this build. When you manually make your archers run away, which you have to because skirmish mode doesn't work properly, because sometimes even with the skirmish mode your archers will get caught by melee infantry, so you have to issue your orders manually. When you make them run away, they just face this side, and they don't fire, so they're just being a waste there. You have to take that into consideration. Hopefully, Creative Assembly will fix that later. Now, I have disrupted my opponent and have separated his army into two. Now he has realized that and is trying to unite his army. I'm engaging his hoplites with my general. I think that was a mistake. I was planning to throw some pillars at him, because at the time I was busy with trying to properly flank my opponent. As you can see now, there are only 2 archers that are in front for ranged units at the left, and 2 on the right. This means no matter which side he faces, I will always get one of his flanks, and you cannot shield yourself from archer fire on all sides. This should maximize the enemy casualties. Now my enemy is wavering. I have hid my cavalries around there. I've seen him wavering, so that is why I'm attacking him directly. As you can see, he could have been using these units to attack these spearmen instead, but that would not make much of a difference because I could just pull them away and kite him around this whole remainder of the map. So after this point, when you're fighting against this kind of build, the moment your opponent loses his first cavalry, second his ranged units, the battle is almost practically over. There is almost no chance that you can lose if you can kite your opponent properly. It requires some practice, it requires some micro, but when done right, no amount of skill that your opponent has can defeat you, because your units are faster, your units are stronger, they have a better range, and you are now dictating the battlefield. And these Torek swordsmen are gone. I'm just doing an in-out. Let's see who is engaging who. Also, there is one more important point. When your enemy when your enemy's morale breaks, your archers keep firing at them. So you'll have to retarget them manually after that. My opponent is wavering over here. The main reason I'm using my general over here in order to engage in melee is to manipulate my opponent, just to keep him there as long as possible, because when your opponent moves, you'll have to catch up with them with your archers, and it's quite annoying. Plus, there is also one more important thing about the archers. As you can see, these units are attacking this routed unit. Even though it has been routed, they're still trying to fire at them. Now these units, all of them have their skirmisher mode enabled, and even with that, let's see what happens. What kind of idiocy happens here? Yes, they have came this close, almost 10 meters close to the enemy melee units. At that point, enemy could have thrown a pillar, and if they kept moving, if they hadn't stopped with their momentum, they would have to enter into melee. That is just ridiculous. That shouldn't have been happening. As you can see, my archers have been caught by the enemy because of the exact same reason. These archers who have just been routed were fighting the units that were routed here, which is where the micro comes in. At this point, even though defeat is almost impossible, the AI, the individual unit AI, still finds a way to screw things up. Now, even though the enemy is using hoplites, at this point, because of his morale, I can use my spear infantry to attack him. Plus, he separated these units from his main army, which made his downfall. Now we have, at this point, as you can see, my archers that were behind are now coming out of the woods and are creating a perfect circle of death. Now my enemy has been surrounded by archers on all sides. They are receiving archer fire from all sides, and this cannot continue for long. Quick in out. I'm just opening the way for my opponent. As you can see, my units are clearly much faster than my opponent is. And my opponent is trying to get my Night Hunters. They have engaged in melee, so I'll have to When your units engage in melee, you have to click at least 6 or 7 times to pull them away, because again, the retarded AI, retarded unit AI, and because of that, you may have to pay attention to that. It's very annoying, and it gives a slight advantage to these kinds of builds. My enemy has pulled him away. Now he has made a terrible mistake by changing his target to the target behind him, who can easily run away. These units are broken. As you can see, they're getting huge amounts of archer fire. I knew that, so I have used my melee infantries, my spearmen here, to hold them. Because at this point, I knew that they could not sustain the battle for long. And just to mess with them, I have retreated from that engagement. This is also one more thing. This is this kind of circle of death is very effective, and perhaps the only tactic against noob circle. When you see your opponent going into a noob circle, what you should do is do pretty much this. Just surround him, take out his ranged units, if possible with your cavalry, in two ways. If your enemy still hasn't formed his noob circle, which he usually does by the deployment phase, you can enter into the cracks in his position and take out all of his ranged units with one stroke. As you can see, we have another geniosity of the individual unit AI. Just genius. I mean, that's perfect. It's archers engaging units that they have no chance against. And as you can see, at this point, my opponent leaves, so the battle has stopped. But I want you to take a look at the position here. As you can see, my units are well divided. They have surrounded the enemy, and I have won this battle with very little losses. Unfortunately, since this is a replay, I cannot show how many losses that there were. If I remember correctly, there were around 150.